Good morning and welcome to the latest in our In Conversation With series. I'm Sarah Austin and I'm the founder of the Really Helpful Club. Now this morning I'm going to be chatting to Gillian Palmer. Gillian is the founder of Lending Made Simple. Can't wait to have Gillian with us this morning. The whole point of this series is to shine the spotlight on different entrepreneurs, different experts, learn about their journey. You know, what was the light bulb moment? What was the thing that made them want to start their business? And how do they go about it? How do they take that next step forward, take that first important step and leap into that journey of an entrepreneur? And then to hear from them as experts as to what they've learned along the way and just to hear about their own journey. Now, I'm going to be joined by Gillian. I know Gillian's online. Gillian, I don't know if you have any problems joining us. I've sent Gillian an invite. This is the joys of doing stuff on IG Live. It's so authentic, it's real. This is happening real time, live. And we have had, as we've made these, I think this is my 30th interview since we started. And I'm loving them because they're just so interesting. Here she is. Good morning, Gillian. Nice to see you.
Sarah, how are you?
Very well, thanks so much. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, apologies, my skills are not great, but I'm here now.
You are very welcome. It's always, I was just about to explain, it's always a rather sort of welcome relief when my guest joins me. And you sort of feel slightly like that warm-up person where you don't quite know when they're coming on and stuff and things. But it's a huge relief to see you and a huge joy to have you with me this morning. And Gillian, I've known you a while now. I know you are brilliant at what you do. I love all the the different recommendations and testimonials that your clients talk about you. So we know you're good. We know what you do is really helpful to people. But I think we need to learn a little bit about Lending Made Simple. Mm-hmm. I think it's a really specialist topic, and I think we want to hear from you. What is it? What is lending, and how do you help your clients, etc. But let's sort of go back right to the beginning. Tell us a bit about Gillian Palmer. How did you get started? How did you enter this industry? And you share your journey with us so we can learn more about you.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me, Sarah. So I set up Lending Made Simple 5 years ago, and the main reason being I was working for a finance broker, and what I felt was that everybody that I worked with came from the banking industry, and I didn't. I'd had 20 years experience building businesses, growing them and selling them. So I had a lot of commercial experience, but probably not the banking experience. However, what I felt was that when I brought my clients in, they were really still being treated like they were when they go into the bank. So when you go to the bank, you're looking for a specific product, and generally it's, it can be quite a laborious task. So I felt it was still the same, and I decided to set up Lending Made Simple because I wanted to create something different. I wanted to make it simple. That was the most important bit, because it was very complicated, and my clients used to say to me, "Oh, this is just too complicated. I'm not going to bother." So I really set out to make it very simple for people to understand what lending is and the alternative funding market, which is available to all businesses now. So effectively what we do is we talk to our clients, we understand their business, and we gather a certain amount of information, and then we take them to the funder that we believe has an appetite for their business. And we try to find them the best funding to suit their company, not only now, but also in the future.
It's really interesting that the point you make there. And I think about the simplicity, or rather, the other end of the spectrum, which is how this is a sector, an industry, which is just wrapped up in so much jargon. Yes. And it's something that, that it really helps the club. We are really focusing on. In fact, in the autumn, we're doing a whole series of talks and events exactly around this subject of how do you make the whole subject of funding, financial education, just sort of financial independence, something that is, becomes intelligible? How do you understand it? And I think you are absolutely sort of hitting the nail, as it were, is that, that it was, people need that access to funding in order to grow or to, preserve their business. But, traditionally you would think, okay, I've got the banks. Well, we know that, banks are not necessarily always going to be the right solution for you. And in fact, during the pandemic, we found that, that's, sometimes being very difficult access to funding. And sometimes it's just your business is not ready to be going off and raising capital, going to the stock market, raising shares, and to be going to that next step. So to know that there are different routes in between, I think, are really important. And as you say, to kind of peel off the onion, to take that jargon away, to do exactly, I love the name of your business. I love businesses that do what they say they do on the tin, as it were, and you are simplifying it. So, exactly. So I love that. So tell me, there are other businesses, similar to yourselves, but what makes you different?
Okay. Going back to what I said about my experience, I think because I've built businesses, and I know what it's like to try and find the right funding. And, you don't know what's available out there, but your business is growing. You want to take on staff. You want to take on a premises, maybe. You probably want to buy more stock. But how are you actually going to fund that? And it's really important to work that out before you actually expand. And that can be a major problem, because actually 60% of businesses fail in the first 3 years because of cash flow. Wow. So really, getting advice at the early stages of your business, using advisors like business coaches and your accountant, and working out what it is that you're going to need in order to grow that business. At that stage, that's where we like to talk to our clients, because we ask them about how they're going to fund not only long-term investment in their business, but short-term. So let me explain that a little bit further for you. Take a scenario, somebody comes to me looking for 100 grand to grow their business. So we break it down and we say, well, what's that 100 grand for? Well, let's say 50 grand of that is for longer term investment in your business. So that could be taking on an office, decorating an office, putting computers in, desks, electrics, network, all these things are longer term. And also I believe that things like websites and your marketing strategy are really a longer term investment in your business. So therefore we would take that requirement and fulfill it with a longer term loan. So maybe a 3 or a 5 year loan. So you're paying for it over a longer period, and it's not putting the pressure on the business to pay for it up front. Then we would look at the cash flow element. And this is the real crucial bit that people often come to me and they'll say, I want to take on 3 members of staff and therefore I want to borrow it on a long-term loan. Well, actually, staffing is a short-term gain to your business. So therefore, why would you actually use a long-term product to pay for a short-term gain? And really also, those staff within 3 to 4 months, they should be really paying for themselves. So we would look at some sort of a cash flow facility to pay for that element. And let me give you an idea of one of the products that we absolutely love at Lender Made Simple, and it's called a revolving cash facility. And it's just like an overdraft facility that they only pay for when they use it. So actually, they might take on that staff and realize they don't really need the cash, or they may only need it at the end of the month for 3 or 4 days until their invoices have been paid. So they therefore draw this money down, use it. They only pay interest when they use it, and they draw it back up when the money comes in. So it's
I think that's just, there's some really interesting things there that you've highlighted for me there, Gillian. I think the first thing is the amount of due diligence you do in understanding the businesses that you're trying to help, which is really important. And exactly what you're saying, again, it's about finding the solution that matches the need. So whether it's the long-term solution or the short-term solution, which again ties into some of the themes that we're exploring at the moment, which is around, a long-term plan to meet your long-term needs as an individual, but also as a business owner as well, to whom, we're talking to so many business owners. But I think the other thing which you're highlighting there is that the amount of confidence that this will then give that business, but you know that you have that funding in place, the right funding, which is the most important thing here, in order to be able to grow, scale, whatever it is your needs are. So that sense of financial confidence is every bit as important as your personal confidence, your inner confidence, and everything else as a business owner. This means that you can do it. You can pull the trigger as and when. And I think that is something that isn't really talked about enough out there, and is something that I think we can help people to do as well, because we work with a huge amount of small business owners and startups and scale-ups, and knowing how to access that funding is really important. So thank you for sharing that. Now we've got a few people who have joined us. What we always do with this is we share this onto our IGTV channel, which is like the TV channel of Instagram. We will also then share it on LinkedIn. So it won't matter if someone has missed this. You're going to get the full benefit later on. And we know we get loads and loads of people watching this later on. But if you are watching and you do have a question for Gillian, now is a great moment to pop it into the chat. Or if Gillian is saying something where that's resonating with you, or you've got some comments you want to feed back, just do it. Put it in there, because this is for the benefit of all. So so thanks for that. So you talked about that Lending Made Simple has been in operation now, I think, for 5 years, and I know you've got some exciting growth plans. You've recently moved to Tunbridge Wells. Tell us a little bit about the expansion and the future of the business.
Yeah, indeed. Well, as I said, Lending Made Simple has been 5 years running. And when our clients come to us, the feedback we always get from them is, oh my God, you really did make it simple. You made it easy, you cut the jargon out, you didn't ask me for too many future plans or information, and you made it very simple. And actually, I now understand funding. Can you offer us, other facilities? Like, do you do mortgages? Do you do insurance? Do you do pensions, investment, foreign exchange? All these many products that actually sit within the finance industry. And the answer's always been no, but I know a really good guy that does, or, a woman that does. And I've been thinking about it for probably about a year now. Well, why not create a hub where people can actually come and ask all those questions? So later this year, I will be launching the Finance Hub, which will be in a fantastic location in Tunbridge Wells. And effectively, it will be somewhere people can come to talk about all elements of finance. So they may specifically say, no, I want to come in to talk to the mortgage broker. I want to speak about mortgages. Or they may actually not be sure. And to be quite honest, most of the people that come to me to talk about business funding don't really know what they want. They say, I don't know what I want, but I know what I'm trying to achieve. So effectively, they can come into the Finance Hub and have that conversation. Be a very relaxed environment, not a stuffy, environment. Financial institute. It'd be a very relaxed environment, and they can come and talk about finance in general. Once we then understand what it is that they're looking for, we will then pass them to the affiliate within the room. So within the room, to give you an idea, we will have a mortgage broker. And this mortgage broker will specialise in entrepreneurs, people with multiple businesses, which is normally quite difficult to get a mortgage if you're in that scenario. They also will look at commercial mortgages, and Lending Made Simple do some bridging loans and some commercial mortgages. Our mortgage broker will do the other. So it'll be a fantastic team that, we can give them all elements of commercial lending. We will also have pensions and investment, insurance, foreign exchange, R&D tax credits. We'll have access to accountants. And then also there's other people like solicitors who'd like to get involved at this stage as well. So we'll do a 3-hour session with them, understand what it is they're trying to achieve, and then arrange an appointment with the relevant affiliate to help them with that.
It sounds like a brilliant one-stop shop for all your, personal as well as your business financial needs. So it sounds fantastic. And presumably you're going to be able to service people wherever they are. They don't need to be in the proximity of Tunbridge Wells. So if you're listening to this and going, well, that sounds just what I need, but I don't live near Tunbridge Wells. Well, actually, don't worry. You can still get hold of Gillian and her. I mean, it just sounds like a really great team of everything that you could need, of all those sort of nuts and bolts. When someone goes, oh, but you need this, you need that. And you go, yeah, but where do I go? And actually, you are going to be that person that can help that. And here we go, with a lovely comment coming in here. So thank you very much for this. I tell you, there's nothing nicer when someone's sort of following one of our chats and they make a comment, because I have to tell you, it makes it feel like it's worth it. So listen to this, Gillian. So this comes from, again, one of our lovely followers. Would love to follow up and hear more about your business. Many of my clients may be interested. Super, thank you. Well, we're delighted to put everyone in touch. That's something that we pride ourselves on at Really Help the Club, is we think we're very good at connecting people to other people, where actually the mutual benefit becomes, scaled, and the sum of the parts is just leveraging off our contacts and our network of information. So thanks very much for that. Delighted to help you with that. So let's just sort of rewind the clock a little bit. Go back sort of 15, 16. I don't think anyone can remember the start of the pandemic anymore, but let's say 18 months, just for the sake of, picking a number out of the air. I remember when I first started talking to you, Gillian, I mean, you were there helping people right from the start with CBILs. And I'm going to let you explain what a CBIL is rather than put myself on the spot. But maybe you can sort of talk about how you adapted as a business and the types of businesses that you have helped, before we then sort of look at, needs that people have now.
In the future. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Well, absolutely. My business was affected like everybody else's. We got that announcement, the lockdown. Within that, every half an hour we were having emails from our funders saying, we're closing the doors, and we oh my goodness, what's going to happen here? And as then it all evolved, and we were listening in every day to the announcements from the government, the bounce back loan was announced. And bounce back was fantastic. And, nearly every business, I think, took one, including myself. We all, went straight to the bank and took it. And in fact, I probably spent 2 months then giving free advice to people who were ringing me looking for bounce back. And I said, look, we can't do it. Your bank can. What was your turnover? This is how you do it. This is how you go and get it. And had many lovely comments, people saying, thank you. Like, you didn't make any money out of this, but you helped me. Well, that's what we're there for. We're not just here to make money. We're here to help people. So then the government launched the as you call it, the CBILs, which is the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme, which when we talked about it yesterday, I haven't used that word in a while because it's gone now. And this was an amazing loan for bigger businesses. So really bounce back was for people with turnover up to 200,000, and the CBILs was for anybody above that. It was a terrific loan, but it wasn't very easy to get. And take, for instance, one of my introducers, who's an accountant, came to me and he said, I put in 20 applications to the bank, and I got 2 offers. I'm really, really annoyed at this. And I said, well, you're an accountant. Why did you do that work? Give it to me, because actually this is what I do for a living. And this is, we really get to understand how our funders work, what their criteria, what is their appetite, because they all have different appetites as well. Mm-hmm. And just to give you a little bit of information on how that CBILs work, each of those funders will have an allocation for each sector. So take, for instance, the construction sector is probably the one that goes really, really quick, because, they generally don't have the highest credit rating, and that's just due to the level of insolvencies that go on in that industry. We knew exactly what funders to go to when construction companies came to us. So we had a client referred to us from an accountant, and he had been to 2 brokers and been turned down everywhere. And within 24 hours, we got him £350,000. Now, I have to say, I was even shocked when I seen it. Yeah. But the main reason being, we just went to the one lender that still had money in the pot for construction. And, rather than taking him to lots of different people and getting all these credit checks put on him, we just went to who we knew would have an appetite for them. And the main reason we know that is we pick up the phone. We don't let a computer say no. We pick the phone up and say, before we send this client over to you, I just want to check if you have an appetite today for construction. And because we do that work, that's why we have an 80% conversion rate on all those deals.
Yeah.
So that's how we got through the pandemic. And then the CBILS loans ended back in April. And it was replaced by the recovery loan scheme. Now, the government announced that will be launched on the 6th of April. And I'll be quite honest, it's still not fully launched. There's quite a lot of funders that are still waiting for the British Business Bank to allow it to go live. And I believe the main reason for that is the first 2 loans are brought out very quick. And as you probably heard, there was quite a lot of fraud involved. So this time around, the funders and the British Business Bank had to just make sure that it was sealed tight and that the terms and conditions were solid.
Gillian, there's so many interesting things that have come out of that. I mean, it's just, I remember when I first met you, and I remember that statistic you gave, that 80% conversion rate of all applications is incredibly impressive. And to me, and there are various things that come about. You know, one is just how accessible you are. People trust you. They know to pick up the phone to you, which I think is incredibly important. Because then, you know, again, go back to, you know, in the height of the pandemic, people were in a very stressed and distressed situation. So knowing they could come to you and that actually they had the best chance possible of getting that access to funding, I think is really, really important. But also the other thing I love about you is that as a business owner, that concept of giving out that free advice, paying it forward, actually investing in your client, helping them to get out of that stress situation, converts the client into, you know, when they then know that they're then really into a growth scenario, they will come back to you. So it's I think it's really smart, but it's also, it's you all over. And I think that's why you have such a, I think such a sort of loyal following, but also this incredibly high conversion rate. So, you know, so thank you for that. But the other thing it really comes across is how passionate you are about business itself. I mean, you talked about you've run businesses, you've grown, you've sold businesses, and now here you are helping businesses, you know, to survive and then to be able to thrive. What do you find? What does Gillian Palmer find the most rewarding thing about running your own business?
I mean, I think with this business, the most rewarding thing is when we've helped those clients to grow or to, you know, you talked earlier about having the finance arranged in advance so you have the confidence then to grow the business. One of my clients, they wanted to bid. They were actually a stationery company, and they wanted they'd won lots of local business, but they wanted to bid for such, you know, bigger contracts with big hotel chains, and they were concerned that if they won it, they knew they would win it because they had a lot of experience in the industry, but they were concerned if they won that contract, they couldn't afford it. They wouldn't have been able to buy the stock. They'd have had to take on an administrator. And we found them the right funding in order to do that. And they bid and they won it. And they went on to win many more large contracts. Now, to me, that's what my job is all about. That's what I love, seeing, you know, the growth that our clients have. And that's what makes my job worthwhile, you know. One thing I'm noticing at the moment as well, people that we did help out in the pandemic, that survived it, we got CBILS loans for them. And quite a few, we seem to deal with a lot of consumer-based businesses, so maybe manufacturers, small manufacturers. A lot of these are coming back to me now saying, actually, because we manufacture in the UK, we've just won a major contract with John Lewis or Selfridges or, you know, Home Bargains. So these contracts they would have never won before. Now, they've got to make sure they've got the right cash flow for those sort of deals, or you know, it could actually damage their business. So that's what I love, is that my clients come back and ask me for my help and support. And I don't think that's just because of my knowledge of the finance industry. I think it's my knowledge of business as well, and just my experience of business, really, you know.
Absolutely. And that certainly is what comes across. And it's that warmth, enthusiasm and knowledge and expertise, which is, you know, just so evident. And so I guess sort of go back a step as well in terms of, if someone was starting their own business, and I don't mean here in the finance sector, I mean, we have so many people running and, running businesses across so many different sectors. What would be your advice to someone, thinking about taking that next step forward, or, taking that step to launch their own business?
I think the most important thing is take advice before you start. Yeah. So, get yourself an accountant. I deal with many, many accountants, and generally people start a business and think, oh, I'll get an accountant after I actually make some money. But you know what? Always talk to people in advance. People are willing to help out without charging you at that stage, to just give you the knowledge. Use a business coach or somebody in an advisory position that's been there. They understand the process, because if you've never been there, you don't know that process. We've been there. We've learned it. We've felt the pain of it. So take the advice. And the other thing I would say is, know your marketplace. Know who your competitors are. How do they go to market? What is unique about you? And just be different. Try to stand out from a crowd, and don't be scared to stand out. Because I know when I joined the finance industry, I didn't come from this industry. I was in a very, very different industry for 20 years. And I'm sure people thought, what does she know about finance? But actually, my knowledge of business has superseded that. And, there's a lot of, you can take on staff to help you with parts of the business that you may not be as knowledgeable with, and you can gain that support, but certainly take advice is the most important.
Absolutely. And I think your message about surrounding yourself with a support network of people who can help you is incredibly important. And that ties in with, again, everything that we're about at Really Help the Club. And I think with your new finance hub, which again is there to support, to help, help people, progress forward. So you talked a little bit about the new initiatives that are coming, that, not quite formed yet. What type of businesses? Do you have any examples of, the sort of businesses that are coming to you right now, looking for that next funding initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, they're quite a lot in the manufacturing. They're winning bigger deals because, we're having supply problems at the moment because of Brexit and coronavirus and the Suez Canal, and, everything seems to be affecting getting supplies into the UK at the moment. So the manufacturing industry, from what I see, seems to be thriving, so they're coming to me because they need bigger premises, more machinery, and even stock. I have a small food manufacturer who's won a big deal with Home Bargains, but in order to make that product for Home Bargains, they had to buy a lot of raw material up front, and they need the cash flow to do that. So that type of industry. I mentioned also earlier consumer industry, so people who sell product, and a lot of them seem to be, they sell online, and they tend to struggle getting finance, because their banks, the high street bank, maybe strays away a little bit from lending to that type of organisation. So that's where the alternative funding market is really helpful once you get the right funding in place for them. So yeah, across the board, really, people who have made it through the pandemic, seen a window of opportunity, and are now going to grow their business because of that.
I completely agree with you on so many fronts there, Gillian. You could see the recovery is really looking quite broad-based, quite strong.
Oh, absolutely.
The consumer, there's a huge pent-up amount of savings and I think desire to spend. And also there was just a report I read, I think it was just earlier on this week, about this pent-up investment, exactly what you're talking about, to clear those supply blockages. And I think there's a growing sense of confidence as well. So, so fingers crossed, the recovery is looking really quite promising. So with that in mind, my last question for you, and we've taken up a lot of your time, is look, you've gone through. It's a very interesting journey. I've watched you go through where you've been there, going through the pandemic yourself, which, as you say, business just comes to a halt. But then there you were, able to help people to help them access that sort of opportunities to survive. But for your own business, here you are, you look to me like you are also entering a period of expansion. You know, if I come back and we have another chat in, 12, 18 months time, what do you think Gillian Palmer will be telling me then? What will have been your hopes and aspirations that have been fulfilled?
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope you'll be coming to our fantastic location.
Definitely,
Maybe more than one location, as you said, maybe not just Tunbridge Wells. And coming in and seeing, the buzz and the clients really, using the Finance Hub as a real place to go for advice. And I think also, bringing in maybe other areas of advice, maybe, some of your type of people on the Really Helpful Club, like people in advisory positions. So bringing those in, and I think it will expand to that as well, because I'm having a lot of interest from other, the likes of solicitors and business coaches. Please, can we come into the Finance Hub? So maybe it might become the Business and Finance Hub. You never know. But I've already been approached to expand this and scale this business. So we've got to get number one off the starting line, and really critique it to be, a place that people want to come, and experience this, this sort of support system before we grow maybe further afield.
Gillian, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's always a journey of enjoyment and learning with you. So thank you so much. But I mean, to me, I always go back to, that statistic, 60% of businesses fail in the first 3-year period because of cash flow. So why wouldn't you want to go and talk to someone like Gillian, who's accessible? We know she's trusted and she has one of the best conversion rates out there. So Gillian, I'm going to leave everyone with this: is take advice from experts, get yourself an accountant straight away, understand your market and your competitors, and find a way to be different, better, and stand out from the crowd. You won't get much better advice than that. Gillian, thank you very much. And we will share this on IGTV. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.